Hey, Walt.
How you doing, Brian?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good.
I got back. I was gonna. Looks like, are you out of town too? What are you doing?
I'm in the basement of the Golden One Center right now.
What are you doing there?
Well, this June, that's why I just sent you a text about the silent auction.
Oh, that was from there. Oh, okay. Are you? So you're in an event then?
I'm on the board for the Sacramento Historical Society.
Oh, well, that's pretty cool. So you're down in the basement, though.
Well, I had to slide out of the event. It's this, unveiling of a sculpture tonight.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, good.
Oh, there we are. All right.
Director White, it looks like you're trying to connect twice. I got you.
And now he's muted.
You're probably trying to connect to closed session on one
Sometimes you got
device.
double whammy. Are you?
So that's why we can look at them twice.
Well, I don't want that.
Yeah, but he's muted on one and talking on the other.
Okay.
All right. So
looks
you guys
good.
can hear me okay out there in Zoom land? Give me a thumbs
Yes.
up. Okay, good. Everyone is
Recording in progress.
start. You guys okay? Can you hear me okay out there? Perfect. I'd like to call this meeting of Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District to order at 6:03 p.m. on Thursday, November 10th, 2022. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Yes, good evening, everyone. I will begin with Director Gould, who's absent, moving to Director Orzali.
Present.
Wood is also absent. Director Sheets.
Present.
Rice.
Present.
Jones.
Here.
White.
Here.
Clark.
Present.
And President Saylor's turning it back to you.
Thank you very much. Our next item on the agenda is the pledge to the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item is Metro Cable announcement. The open session meeting is videotaped for cablecast on Metro Cable 14, replayed on Saturday, November 12th at 2 p.m. and Monday, November 14th at 6 p.m. on Channel 14, webcast at metro14live.saccounty.net. We now have the public opportunity to discuss matters of public interest within district jurisdiction, including items on or not on the agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers tonight?
We do not have any speakers in the audience with us. However, Art, if you could unmute our virtual audience, give them the chance to speak if they so wish.
Hello, attendees. You now have the ability to unmute yourself if there's anything you'd like to present to the board at this time. No response.
Having no speakers, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, consent items. If there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion in a second.
I will move it.
Second.
That's it.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Director Orzali.
Here. All right.
I take that as a yes. Sheets.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Jones.
Here. Aye. Had to make it feel better.
White.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
And Sailors.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda tonight is a presentation item. This item is about sleep deprivation in the fire service. I've asked Dr. Laura Barger to come in and tell us about her research that she has done on sleep deprivation. She's a scientist that works out of Harvard and actually lives right here in Davis. So she's very handy to come in and tell us about sleep deprivation and how it affects the human body. And before she comes up, I would just like to give you my thoughts. On Monday, I attended a memorial service for a firefighter brother of mine, Kevin Trost. Kevin is my age. He came on just a year or two before Gay and I came on. He worked a long and active career. Kevin, just like most of us firefighters, was outgoing, happy, and loved to run into burning buildings, just like any of us firefighters love to do without a thought, because that's what we do. Unfortunately, we don't stop and think about the carcinogenic stuff that we're absorbing through our skin that we used to breathe in until they gave us breathing apparatus. And one of the things that has recently come to light that is killing a lot of us, especially in today's times, is sleep deprivation. A lot of us don't like to think about it because when you're young, you don't think you need to sleep because you're young and you can stay up all night long and cram for that exam in college. You think you can stay up all night long for 24 hours and run calls all night long, and you think that you can go off tomorrow and go home and sleep all day and recover. Well, guess what? We have learned you can't. Every time you lose your sleep, you are affecting your adrenal gland in your brain, and it is causing more cortisol to just go out into your bloodstream and affect all of your hormones, all of your glands, and it is setting you up for cancer, for a greater tendency for PTSD, for a drowsiness that causes more accidents. But before I continue on, I would like to invite Dr. Laura Berger up and let the expert teach us what sleep deprivation does, because she is the scientist who does the research. Good evening, Dr. Berger.
Thanks,
Please tell us.
Yeah, thanks so much for inviting me to talk about my favorite topic. And I love being back here at Mather. After I graduated college, this was the first place where I was stationed and went to navigator training here some 35 years ago. And sure is different. And, but it's nice to be back and see it. So I'm going to try to talk fast because I know you have other things on the agenda. If you want to put up this slide presentation. I'm part of the Division of Sleep Medicine at Harvard Medical School. I've been able to telecommute for 20 years because all of my research has been field research. So we looked at sleep deficiency in safety-sensitive organizations like firefighters, police officers. We studied sleep of the federal air marshals, of the astronauts, and I'm here to convince you that sleep is important and hope that you will want to prioritize it. Oh, I can do it with my slide here. So there's 3 pillars of health, and a lot of organizations focus on diet and exercise, but they forget that sleep is the 3rd pillar of health, or I might say the 1st pillar of health. Sleep deficiency is an epidemic in our society. Nearly 1/3 of Americans sleep less than 6 hours a night. That's double the rate from 50 years ago. About 70% of Americans report getting insufficient sleep. That's less than 7 hours a night. And many suffer from sleep disorders, which we'll talk about a little bit later. It's thought that 20% of all serious and fatal crash injuries are due to sleep deficiency and drowsy driving. We live in a 24-hour society with a lot of artificial light. And there's been studies to show that 24 hours of wakefulness, your performance after 24 hours of wakefulness is similar to that with a blood alcohol concentration of 0.10% legally drunk in every state. And I know nobody would think about going to work after drinking, but often people go to work when they are deficient in sleep. So what is sleep? Often I hear it's that thing that I don't get. There's a histogram up there showing the complex architecture of sleep. When you sleep for 8 hours, you go through several cycles where you have deep, slow wave sleep and REM sleep, each being critical to recovery. Some of the characteristics of sleep, it's in all animals sleep, even firefighters need sleep. It's a biological necessity. Animals die rats die in about 3 weeks if they're deprived of sleep. I showed you how complex it is, the architecture of it. It's homeostatically regulated. The amount and content of your sleep depends on your prior wake duration and circadian rhythms. And if you are deficient in sleep, you're going to your wake is going to be affected. You're going to have deficits in alertness and performance, and you're going to have increases in errors and accidents. So there's occupational cost to too little sleep. This is a picture on the right of one of the astronauts that we were studying. Can you see what the error is there that the astronaut has made? This is some of the Optimus spacewalk. Right? No, he's definitely hooked up. It's a mistake that about 3-year-old kids would generally make. Issues. He hasn't put someone on the scene. So there's a lot of errors they can make during space flight. This is sort of a simpler one, but just shows they sleep about 6 hours a night, and about 75% of them take sleep medications to onboard the space shuttle, International Space Station, just to get that amount of sleep. And when we look at physicians working greater than 24-hour shifts, we found that there was a 168% increase in car accidents, 468% increase in near crashes. They made more attentional failures, 109% increase. That's falling asleep while caring for patients, measured with PSG. 36% more diagnostic serious medical errors and more complications and more needle stick injuries. And they continue to work 24-hour shifts. There's a quality of life impact of too little sleep. Police officers that we studied that were at high risk for a sleep disorder were significantly more likely to yell at suspects or citizens and have citizens' complaints filed against them. They've done studies with sleep deficiency looking at shooting, and they know that there's more errors in no-shoot situations with sleep deprivation. When you don't get a lot of sleep and you feel more sad, you feel more irritable, and it's more difficult to get along with colleagues. I don't know if any of you experience that in fire stations. There's also a big economic cost to sleep deficiency. The RAND Corporation estimated that costs attributable to sleep deficiency in the U.S. are $410 billion. That's 2.3% of the gross domestic product back in 2015. And those economic costs come in absenteeism, missed days at work, presenteeism, being at work but not performing your job. A lot of surfing the web, things like that, diminished performance, lower productivity, increased healthcare expenditures are another big one, and workplace accidents, injuries, and motor vehicle crashes. We put together a website that's down there at the bottom. You can just Google National Safety Council Tired at Work, and it'll come up. It's a fatigue cost calculator where you can put in the number of employees that you have, and it'll tell you how much you're losing per year due to sleep deficiency in these areas. And there's a place where you can see, if you had a sleep health education program, how much you could recover of that. I'm going to just tell you now why the brain needs sleep. It's restoration of energy stores that take place at night. And if you don't have that, you feel tired and sluggish the next day. It's also important to have good sleep for taking out the garbage. I like to think of it as waste clearance. So what they found recently is when you're asleep, the glial cells in your brain actually shrink in size. And so that opens up passageway where the cerebral spinal fluid can flow faster, 200 to 300 times faster, and it takes out the waste. Some of those wastes are toxins like the beta amyloid plaque. And so that's why we now know that getting insufficient sleep is associated with dementia and Alzheimer's disease, because that clearance isn't happening because you're not getting sleep. I like to think of it as like in New York City, if all the alleyways were opened up at night and the garbage could be cleared out faster. That's what's happening during your sleep. And you can't do that when you're awake. Your brain has to be offline to do these tasks. So not getting sufficient sleep, I said cognitive impairment, Alzheimer's disease. Memory consolidation happens when your brain is offline, when you're sleeping. So the lack of that, you're going to have forgetfulness. And during sleep, during REM sleep in particular, your brain integrates what you learned today with your body of knowledge. So this is really important if you have trainees. What if you're teaching them during the day and they're not sleeping at night? They're not going to be able to integrate that knowledge. And there's studies that show that if you don't sleep the night you learn a novel task, you never learn that task as well as somebody who's been able to sleep that night after following that new learning. The body needs sleep for a number of reasons too: heart health and blood pressure regulation. And we find people that sleep less than 6 hours a night have an increased risk of hypertension, heart disease, and stroke. Regulation of appetite. If you are not getting sufficient sleep, that's associated with overeating, weight gain, and obesity. We know the hormones that regulate appetite, ghrelin, the one that says I'm hungry, goes up, and leptin, the hormone that says I'm satisfied, goes down if you're not getting enough sleep. And the food choices you make, people tend to crave more carbohydrates and junk food when they are not sleeping adequately. Maintenance of insulin and glucose metabolism. This is really important. There's a study at University of Chicago where they had a group that was in bed 10 hours a night, a group that was in bed 5 hours a night. After 1 week of sleep deficiency, that magnitude, they were in a condition that was pre-diabetic at the end of 1 week. So you can imagine if you are sleeping 5 or 6 hours a night as a lifestyle, how that increases your risk for diabetes and other metabolic syndromes. And then the immune system regulation. We know that this was a study looking at the flu vaccine, and they had a group that slept adequately for 10 days following the flu vaccine, and another group that had their sleep restricted. At the end of those 10 days, the group that was sleep restricted did not have the same number of antibodies as the group that was able to sleep. There's another study where they shot up in the nose the cold virus. And who wants to volunteer for a study like that? But again, the group that was sleep deprived, 3 to 4 times more likely to catch the cold than the group that was sleeping adequately. So we know it's super important for the immune system as well. For cancer risk, sleep is really important. There are some things in your job that you can't change, and things like your age, your genetics, but we also have these modifiable risk factors like diet, alcohol, and sleep is one of them. The World Health Organization has declared shift work a carcinogen. And we know from studies looking at shift workers that they're at an increased risk of prostate cancer and breast cancer have been the 2 most researched cancers. And the circadian system is disrupted with shift work, and the amount of light and melatonin regulation, all of those affect the cancer risk. So what is healthy sleep duration? Adults need 7 to 9 hours a night. If you have any teenagers, they need more, 8 to 10 in high school. And the timing of sleep is we're learning more and more critical that the regulation or the regularity of sleep is super important, and we can see risks in cardiovascular disease and other health consequences for people that don't sleep regularly. I know that's kind of a crazy thing to say to this group because you can't sleep at the same time, go to bed at the same time every night and get up at the same time every morning, but that's certainly what we would recommend as sleep scientists. And the consolidation of sleep into 1 8-hour bout is the best because of that architecture, and you can go through all the stages of sleep. If you can't get that, second best is to take a nap so that you can make up for any deficiency in the duration of the nap. If you can only sleep 5 hours in a night, then maybe you can take a 3-hour nap during the day. And I don't know what your policies are in the stations, but a nap policy, I know one fire department we went into, we weren't allowed to call it a nap policy, but we called it a rest policy. And we were able to encourage people to take naps, and we're able to improve alertness there. There's a few biological factors to consider when you think about alertness and fatigue, and those are going to be your hours of wake, your sleep debt. If you need 8 hours of sleep a night and you're only sleeping 6 hours, that's a cumulative deficit that occurs. So by the end of the week, you could be 10 hours in sleep debt. Circadian time of day is important, and sleep inertia. And I'm just going to show you just some quick examples from the laboratory. The time of day is important to your alertness. We know people perform their worst at their circadian low points. That's about 3 to 5 in the morning. We can see that in laboratory studies. The longer you've been awake, the worse you're going to perform. If you can see that sort of linear decline in performance as we keep people awake in our laboratory for more than 40 hours. Chronic sleep deficiency is a little more insidious, and that's kind of a complicated and small graph, but let me just explain. If you're only sleeping 6 hours a night and you're building up that sleep debt, your performance is going to be impaired. And this slide shows that after about 10 days of sleeping 6 hours a night, the performance was similar to somebody who'd been up 24 hours. What's interesting about that study, it's done at the University of Pennsylvania, is they asked those people, how sleepy are you? How are you performing? And they all said the first couple of nights they're like, oh, I'm a little sleepy. Then it leveled off. And they said, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. So they subjectively thought they were doing okay, where their performance objectively was getting worse and worse and worse. So we're not very good judges of our own performance when we have this more insidious chronic sleep deficiency or not sleeping enough every night. And then finally, sleep inertia. And this is sort of the thing that you have to consider if you're going to nap. That sleep inertia is the fancy word for that grogginess you feel when you first wake up. And this is a study we did in our lab where we keep people semi-recumbent in bed in dim light and test their performance right after they wake up. And we can see that they don't, the brain doesn't go to 0 to 60 in a few minutes. Here, their performance decrement lasted longer than an hour. But you have to, we say, you can give yourself 30 minutes before making decisions after you wake up from a nap. And it's not possible in your profession where you have to get up and perform, but just being aware that your brain is not performing at its peak when you first wake up. And that sleep inertia is going to be more profound if you wake up from a deep stage of sleep and that you're carrying a big sleep debt. We can see all of these factors in operational settings too. This is showing the number of single vehicle truck crashes, and you can see there's a peak, and that's at 3 to 5 in the morning, that circadian low. We know that acute sleep deprivation, being up for long periods of time, this shows those single vehicle truck accidents, the risk 15 times as high after 13 hours on task and in the first hour. Chronic sleep deficiency, this was a study of resident physicians that were unable to maintain performance when they were working 85 hours a week, 30-hour shifts. Chronically, their performance got worse, and sleep inertia, they were able to see more crashes in an Israeli Air Force study in that first hour where the pilots were sleeping in their planes and had to take off emergently from sleep. Next is sleep disorders. Sleep disorders are going to affect your performance, and there's more than 90. And I'll go ahead and detail each one of those 90 right now. No, I won't do that. I don't really have time for that, but I just want to touch on a couple of important ones. And one is obstructive sleep apnea. This snoring is the biggest symptom of that, and it's where your airway collapses at night and you stop breathing, so your sleep is disrupted. It can happen hundreds of times an hour with people with severe sleep apnea. Here's a, has anybody heard this? I just want to the person who want you all. Not breathing, so see if you can hold your breath now. Still not breathing. Gasping for air. Imagine so long, how hard that is on the cardiovascular system. So it's no wonder that untreated sleep apnea has such a risk for stroke and heart attack and cardiovascular disease. This was a study I want to show you that they did over 18 years. So the people were about 48 years old when they started, about 66 at the end of 18 years. And it was back in 2008, this was published, where they did, the group there in blue does not have sleep apnea. At the end of 18 years, 94% of them were still alive. The red line there represents, it's a survival curve for those people who had sleep apnea, but they were untreated. And the reason they were able to be untreated is because they didn't think if you didn't have residual sleepiness during the day, you didn't need to be treated. That's what they thought at the time. So you can see here, at the end of 18 years, only 58% of those were still alive. So something to think about going into retirement. If you want to have a long life, you have to treat sleep apnea. They're okay, those two lines there for about a decade, but in that second decade, those with untreated sleep apnea just fall off and mortality increases. It's easily treated with continuous positive airway pressure, CPAP machines, oral appliances, surgery. There's a bunch of new devices even coming out and the medications even that are treating sleep apnea now. This is just one other short video about sleep apnea.
I snore?
Yeah.
See, I don't know if I snore because I don't hear myself, so.
Oh, he hears himself because sometimes it wakes him up. And he's like, baby, was I snoring? Yeah, you were snoring.
Sleep apnea actually is a pretty common condition, which is most likely underdiagnosed and under-evaluated because many people don't realize that they have it.
Well, every time I stop breathing, she, the next morning, yeah, sleep apnea. Yeah, sleep apnea. And I'm like, what is sleep apnea?
Well, sleep apnea is a condition where a person is unable to get air into their lungs when they fall asleep.
Every time the person stops breathing, they wake up. They stop breathing, they wake up.
And that exposes the body to a myriad of really adverse stresses.
It's linked with the obesity epidemic, to being linked with cardiovascular or heart disease.
High rates of stroke, diabetes, and even mortality.
And so now we got to fix it. Don't want to go out like that.
So, Shaq, one of the things that we talked
I'm meeting with the sleep doctor, my main man, Dr. C. You know, he said he wanted me to be part of his sleep study.
We arranged for an overnight recording in which we could actually find out whether Mr. O'Neill has sleep apnea.
Hopefully I don't have it, but if I do have it, you know, I know I'm working with the best people to, you know, get it cured.
You have moderate sleep apnea here.
Obstructive sleep apnea is a chronic condition which is eminently treatable.
Since I've met with Dr. C, and you know, I've been getting at least 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep a day. Feel good. The weight is good. Got a lot of energy. The relationship is good at the house. Everything is working.
There's someone who was a Celtic, that study. Insomnia is another really common sleep disorder, and it has that survival curve there. If it's untreated, all-cause mortality from insomnia. It's not quite as dramatic as the one for obstructive sleep apnea, but you can still see that all-cause mortality is increased with untreated insomnia. Insomnia has a lot of good treatments, cognitive behavioral therapy that you can do online now. And that's been shown to be as effective as medications for insomnia as well. Relaxation techniques, yoga, those kinds of things also help, and proper sleep hygiene. I'll put this up at the end, but this is just a QR code. If you want to take a picture of that, you can go through the sleep disorder screening that we've done with different occupational groups, including firefighters, and if you're at high risk for one of the common sleep disorders. So I'll put that up again at the end. I just want to show you some fire specific data that we've collected. In a survey of 500 fire and EMS providers, half reported poor sleep or fatigue. A national study found that more than a third of providers report excessive daytime sleepiness. So we know it's an issue with firefighters. Firefighters report needing 7.6 hours of sleep. This was in our large study of almost 7,000 firefighters, but obtain only 6 hours when working regular daytime shifts and 5.4 hours on overnight shifts. And so we found that most firefighters averaging, over 5 hours a night sleeping when they're on duty. But what I think is important is that there were 14% of the shifts where there was no sleep at all. And that's unpredictable when that was going to be. So some people are going, 24 hours with no sleep. Or I know you guys work 48-hour shifts, right? So could be even longer. The air medical EMS providers reported less than 7 hours of sleep. And we know that 7 to 9 hours is recommended for adults. So deficient in that. And this is looking at the association between fatigue and increased odds of self-reported injury, error, and compromised safety. And so it is, as you move to the right along the bottom there, those are the increased odds ratio for injury, error, and compromised safety. We know sleep disorders are really common in public safety workforces and really all of the workforces that we've looked at. You can see in firefighters there, OSA, obstructive sleep apnea, 28% screened at risk, 6% for insomnia, 9% for shift work disorder. And what was, I think, most alarming is that 9 in 10 of those individuals who screen at risk are undiagnosed and untreated. Sleep disorders are associated with motor vehicle crashes, occupational injuries. You can see the crash risk for firefighters up there at the top was almost twice the risk. Near crashes, almost 3 times the risk, falling asleep while driving, injuries, errors. There's also an association with here cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and mental health, depression, and anxiety, all at increased risk in firefighters. when you are have an untreated sleep disorder or very sleepy, deficient in sleep. This was with 66 fire departments. Does anybody here ever remember taking a survey? It was probably about 10 years ago now. But Sacramento was one of the departments who participated. And we know that sleep deficiency is associated with burnout in firefighters as well. If you just look at that purple bar, you see the increased odds of having burnout if you have any type of sleep disorder. So what can you do to improve sleep in the fire station? Optimize the location of sleeping. We were in one fire department where we reviewed and retrofitted the sleeping quarters to provide a better environment for napping and sleep. So we put blackout shades in all of the windows of all of the stations so that we could improve their sleep that way. We've tried to get them to focus on noise, bed type, personal space, temperature, trying to just optimize those conditions so that when you do have opportunity to sleep, you would be able to make the most of it. Upgrade alerting systems. We found in some departments we went into that there would be one alarm and it would wake up everybody in the station. I don't know if you guys have ones that are individualized so that if you don't need to go, you're not woken up. But those are important upgrades. And what are the best type of alarms? I know people have looked at different bed shakers, things like that, if waking everybody up is an issue. And then rest policies that we think are essential. We went into one fire department and there was they said nobody's allowed to nap during the day, but we went into a room where there were loungers and the TV and it was very dark in there and people were sleeping and we were like, well, I thought you were allowed. And he said, well, it happens. And so our thought was, well, if it happens, why not make the most of it? Why not have a policy to let people take, prophylactic naps in the afternoon if you're not busy, and so that they're ready to go if they have to be up all night. So we've worked with departments to do that as well. And what we found is when we had a sleep health education program, we did a randomized control study in a fire department in the Midwest. And what we found was the group that was randomized to having the sleep health education screened for sleep disorders, they were recommended to go to see a physician if they were at risk. That group had 24% fewer injuries and a 46% reduction in disability day usage than the control group. And they estimated that would save about $2.2 million annually just in disability days. We also found that the group that had the education reported that they were able to get more sleep and they were more alert. So those first two there on the left are with firefighters, and then truck drivers are on the right. The crash rate among drivers with OSA that had treatment was 80% lower. So we know it works, just not in firefighters, but other organizations as well. So I hope that was not more than 30 minutes. Sorry to try to cram all that in, but I'm happy to take any questions, and I'll put that QR code up there if anybody's interested in just taking that.
Thank you, Dr. Berger. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Randy, or Director.
Randy. Question for you, Doctor. You made mention of a projection savings to the department. Is there substantiating data that goes along with that?
Yeah, so that website that I told you about that we did with the National Safety Council, it is all the method paper is on there too. And so it's all based on research, the numbers that are in the algorithm to show those, the amount of money that's lost due to healthcare costs and absenteeism and presenteeism, as well as data that we've collected in sleep health education programs and how that can improve injuries, disabilities, days, and things like that.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'd like to thank you, Doctor, for the presentation. And I'm sure that our clerk has all your information on file. So if there are follow-up questions or other opportunities for further investigation on this, we can use you as a resource.
Yeah, for sure. I know Melissa and Cynthia have my email address. I'm happy if anybody comes up with questions later, please email and I'd be happy to help if we can.
Thank you.
I just had a quick question. You used the term sleep health education program, and then at the end of it there was that. Can you just real quick describe what is that and
Sure.
how is that delivered?
Yeah, so we've done it, we looked at 3 different methodologies. One was expert-led, so it was in person, and we went into the fire stations. We would go in for, it would take about a week to rotate everybody through, but we gave an in-person education program and, did the thing with the QR code and people screened for sleep disorders. We also had an online program, so it was the same education, but people just did it through the web. And then we had a train the trainer program where we went in and trained the trainers in the department. We spent about 3 or 4 days with them, giving them a lot of information and frequently asked questions and all of that. And then they delivered the program to the firefighters. And what we found was that the expert-led was had the highest response in getting people to, there to participate, do the survey, go seek out evaluation if they needed it. And the web-based was the lowest, but Train the Trainer was in the middle. But in all 3 methodologies, we were able to increase knowledge of sleep. We did a pre and a post test, and everybody learned more about sleep. So that's what we've done in the past. This is all pre-pandemic.
So at least we're getting back in person and talking and doing that. And then our coach came and was talking about some straps and measurements during sleep time and how much sleep. Have you seen a lot of success with some of those technology now today?
So there's, I have my Fitbit on now, and I think wearables like that are really great because they certainly bring awareness to sleep and make people more aware of their own sleep. I think they're really good at determining when you go to sleep and when you get up. The stuff in the middle where a lot of them will tell you what stage of sleep you're in, I don't think they're really there yet. So I sort of take those sleep stagings with a grain of salt. And there's a lot of them out there. There's the Apple Watch, the Fitbit, the Garmin. There's an Oura Ring now that's kind of cool that people wear. They're getting better, but if they've been validated in laboratory studies where you put somebody in bed and then they get up, and it's pretty close, it's pretty good. But where it's not so great is in people like firefighters who are maybe napping up several times during the night, when they're off, maybe sleeping during the day. It's not been validated in that, and it's not quite as good at capturing short sleep episodes. I call them hors d'oeuvres when I fall asleep on the couch before the main sleep event. It's not very good at capturing that. But I think there's something called the Whoop strap that a lot of teens use, and there's sort of a competitive part to it, who can get the most sleep. And so those can be effective, and I like them for bringing awareness to sleep. It's just that you can't take them as gospel. We have people going into clinics and saying, I have a problem with my sleep, and the doctors will say, well, what's the problem? Well, my Fitbit said I'm not sleeping now. It's like, well, are you tired during the day or whatever? No, it's just my Fitbit said I was up, several times in the night. So I think you just have to take them for, where they are right now. And pretty good for awareness or if you wanted to have a sleep competition in your department.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation.
Yeah, you bet.
Director White, do you have questions? Your hand is up.
No questions at this time. Thank you very much for the presentation. It is something that, obviously we have to be very aware of given our work schedules and the type of work we do and the need for mental alertness. So thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments? All right.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for coming here. The next item on our agenda tonight, action items. Number 1 is award recommendation RFP 22-03 Helicopter 3 equipment upgrade and mission retrofit. Grant Russell, Battalion Chief, Special Ops.
Good evening. Here to request board approval for the award of the Copter 3 RFP that was posted in early October. We had 2 proposers that responded to the RFP. The proposals were opened and evaluated at the end of October. The committee met November 1st, and the 2 proposals were compared and scored. Advanced Helicopter Services of Woodland, California was the highest scoring proposal, followed by Hangar 1 Avionics of Carlsbad, California. Total fee proposed by Advanced Helicopter Services for the mission upgrade and equipment upgrades to make Copter 3 added to our fleet to be deployable within our county, which involves radio upgrades and change outs so that the mission set that it was originally developed for, being a former Department of State helicopter, will now has to be demilitarized. And that process has been done by our own mechanics. Now it needs to have the avionics and the radio packages changed over to civilian radios. And that's what this project is for. It will also add an external hoist, so it'll give it its rescue capability that allows us to provide services within Sacramento County and also mutual aid responses outside. The helicopter did provide those services multiple times this summer to neighboring counties and was assigned to the Electra and the mosquito fires during the summer as well. Having a 3rd helicopter will make sure that we have 1 helicopter available all the time, and we won't get caught with 2 aircraft down due to maintenance issues at the same time. Total cost of the project as proposed is $787,000 to $787,220.54. It came in slightly over budget. Currently budgeted in this budget year is $750,000. So it will require a mid-year budget adjustment that we're planning for within air operations. Thank you.
Are there any questions? I have a question. Has it already been repainted?
No, that is part of the project.
Okay. And has it already got the water bucket added to it?
It will be using one of the existing tanks.
Okay. So it just needs the fittings put on it too.
The fittings in the control box, which we have the control box as well. It just needs to be installed and wired into the aircraft.
Okay.
And that's part of the project.
Okay. Thank you. No other questions? Thank you very much for that presentation. Having no more questions or comments, I will entertain a motion to.
I'll make that.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, when you're ready, will you call the roll, please?
Yes, Director Orzali.
Oh, I'm sorry. Aye.
Wood.
Aye.
Sheets.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
And Sailors.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. The next item in their action items, number 2, CalPERS employer originated retirement application. Chief Ty Bailey.
Good evening. President Saylor's Board of Directors, Fire Chief Harms, Deputy Chief Ty Bailey, Deputy Chief of the Administration. I'm before you this evening with the resolution that you were given. It's the CalPERS Employer Originated Retirement Application. If the Board of Directors has approved an IDR, which is an industrial disability retirement for an eligible member, but the member is unable to submit his or her disability application to CalPERS, the Deputy Chief of the Administration can submit on their behalf. Government Code Section 21153 obligates the employer to file on behalf of the member if you have reason to believe they may be disabled and the member has not applied on their behalf. It is our recommendation that the board adopts this resolution, which gives the Deputy Chief of the Administration the ability to submit an employer-originated disability retirement application on behalf of the member to begin the industrial disability retirement process with CalPERS. That is all. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Go ahead, Director Orzali.
Ty, how often does something like this come up in your experience?
It doesn't happen that often. However, what we're seeing is you have approved the IDR and there's a delay in them actually submitting. This gives us the ability to start the process sooner so that their checks aren't going to get delayed in the process.
I see.
So we're not completing the whole application. We're just beginning the process.
Got it. Thank you.
then, so how often does it occur?
I can't give you an exact number. I can just say here and there. I mean, we don't have a ton of IDRs coming across, but it gives us the ability to move forward with it and get going in the process. So I can't tell you. I can tell you recently we've had 3 this year, and we could at least submitted it. But as far as total numbers, I can't tell you. But without this resolution being approved, we're unable to do that.
No, thank you for that information. Thank you.
Does anyone out there in Zoom land have any questions or comments?
Director Rice.
Director Rice, you're muted. There you go.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Madam President and Chief Bailey. And I'm going to make an assumption when we do this or we move to do this, it really is positive for both the member and the organization, but really it's assisting the member so that there's not a delay. Is that the correct read on that for me?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no more questions or comments, I'll accept a motion. We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Director Orzali.
Aye.
Wood.
Aye.
Sheets.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
And Sailors.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. The next item under presentation items is number 3, the ratification of resolution to extend teleconference of board meetings, Government Code 54953-E-3. This will continue our ability to once again do Zoom meeting and in-person meetings for the next 30 days. Any questions? If not, I'll accept the motion in a second.
I so move, Madam President.
We have a motion.
Second.
When you're ready, Madam Clerk, we'll call the roll, please.
Director Orzali. Director Orzali.
Aye.
Wood.
Aye.
Sheets.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
And Sailors.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. The next item under presentation items, number 4, resolution commending Director Orzali, Chief Harms, and Board Clerk Bonilla.
Director Orzali, on behalf of the members of Metro Fire, thank you. For me, over the last 6 years, you have been a director that I can say that I have depended on and have weekly conversations about the district. And that has gone from being district information or talks to just about life in general. I have appreciated during your time here your interest in the district, your direction,
your questioning of policies and procedures, of budget, all of those things to push the organization forward. And you have done it in such a professional manner, always as we've moved through there. Also during the time, I've had the opportunity to kind of learn more about you and who you are and the interests that you have and your ability as an individual to share. And I truly have appreciated that, even though you have told me you were going to take me fishing and you never ever did take me fishing, even though we did try. We tried a number of times, but we didn't ever were able to do it. And not only is it here, but over the time and today I went online and just Googled your name and to see what would come up, to see what was out there. One of the things that you have been very involved with, and you and I have had a lot of conversations about the Sacramento Metro Public Safety Foundation. And what roles does that play and what things can we do? And if you remember, the ability to get the external compression devices, and you paid for some training that was along the way. But one of the things that you started, and really I would say that you and the group in the foundation, was when we were looking for the seat cameras. And your ability to go out and I learned really quick is how your relationships between the supervisors, other elected officials, business community folks, and your ability to pull people together for a project and be able to move those forward. While I was on there, I did find that this is not the only thing. You've been involved with the McClellan Air Force Base, the John Garcia Youth Wildlife Foundation, and just a number of areas that you will see your name came up as a volunteer. And a lot of it goes back to, I know, one of your passions, which is wildlife and hunting and fishing and all of those things. That is just a huge passion for you. I also learned that you were a 1966 graduate of the Union High School, so I'll throw that in there. On behalf of the members, thank you very much for your leadership and your role as a director in Metro Fire.
Thank you. Thank you. And if I could just take a moment, first of all, are we clear there were no warrants that came up?
Well, there were some things that came up, but luckily Matt had it blocked, so I couldn't get through the email there. So, yeah.
Okay. This has been a great experience. I wasn't looking for a job when I came here, and I'm now not going to be looking for another job after this. I have taken the liberty of booking another trip to Africa. I want to thank everybody on the board for their generosity towards me, the men and women of Metro Fire. Excuse me, are truly important to me. So with that, now I also want to make a particular mention of Melissa Pineo. I swore I wouldn't do this, and I apparently lied. Melissa is a phenomenal asset to Metro Fire. I am so appreciative of everything you've done. I can't tell you how much working with you has meant to me. Arthur, you will undoubtedly be filing a medical disability claim with Metro Fire for stress and psychological damage for the time he has spent trying to coach me to do Zoom. I really appreciate it, man. You do a phenomenal job. So with that, thank you so much.
Want to read the resolution?
All right, on that note, I'm going to read this into the minutes here. Resolution commending Randy Orzali. Whereas the Board of Directors of the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District wish to acknowledge that Randy Orzali has served as a director of the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District with distinction, and whereas Director Orzali began his service as an appointed board member on January 21st, 2010, was uncontested in the election for Division 3 in December 2010, and faithfully served the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District with sound judgment, responsibility, professionalism, and integrity throughout his tenure for 12 years. Whereas Director Orzali served the Board of Directors with the highest degree of leadership as Board President in 2014, and whereas Director Orzali further served the district with the highest degree of diligence and skill, including serving on the Policy Committee, the Finance and Audit Committee, and as a delegate on the Citrus Heights 2x2 Committee. And whereas Director Orzali founded the Sacramento Metro Public Safety Foundation, a nonprofit organization responsible for various donations of life-saving equipment since 2013. Now therefore be it resolved that the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District and its Board of Directors hereby commend Randy Orzali for devoting his sincere commitment, promulgating the district goals and objectives, and for providing an outstanding record of dedication to the fire service and the citizens which it serves, and wishes to thank him for a job well done. And before we move to any other comments, I just wanted to make one of my own, which I don't normally do from over here, but I have very much appreciated our work together. You have managed to keep me very busy as the time I've been here since being the board clerk. And I appreciate everything you've done for the district. This resolution doesn't even come close to naming everything you've done. I would need many pages to do that. So thank you on behalf of the men and women here at Metro Fire. And on a personal note, thank you for your friendship. I look forward to continuing it beyond your time here.
Thank you.
I believe there's questions from other.
Director Rice, do you have a comment to make? Your hand is up.
I do. Director Orzali, it's been an honor and a pleasure. And I'll tell you what, Randy, I've worked with you when I was a young chief officer, a union officer, and we had some interesting things, but something I've always appreciated about you, you're a calm in the storm. I could always turn to you when needed, and it wasn't all the time and it wasn't a lot, but you were and have always been a strong voice of reason, and not only passionate about the men and women that serve Metro Fire, but you're passionate about the community that you also serve. And one that really struck me, Randy, did the Safety Foundation purchase the majority of the Lucas devices for the department?
No, we purchased and had donated one. We purchased two, and then the others. Finally, the government came through, and they were qualified for government funding.
And I was there, and I remember we were trying to find funding, and we at that point in time, Metro Fire, we did not have within the budget to outfit every medic and engine or ALS company with a Lucas device. And unless things have changed, I believe that that piece of EMS equipment was and still is a major lifesaver on the emergency ground. And where I'm going with that, Randy, I believe you saw the importance of it. I think you worked around myself and Chief Dale Turner. And I just have a feeling that the rest of those devices might not have come through as fast had you not been on it and had the recognition. And that's one of the things that in your job as a director of fiduciary and all the things, really the boring things that we get to do as directors, but you had a vision and you knew what worked and you knew why that was a good piece of equipment and you shepherded it through. That's my opinion. Don't change it. I love you for everything you've done for our organization and our community, Randy. Thank you. And I'm just honored to have served with you both as an employee of Metro Fire, a union officer, and now an appointed board member. Thank you, Randy.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks. Director White, you have a comment? Director White, you're muted. He's trying to figure out, is he on his phone or is he on the iPad?
Quick, Arthur. Help.
Oh, he took his hand down. Okay, no comment from Director White.
So in the interim, in case Director White can get back on or wants to. I gave my regards to Randy out in the parking lot, and I'll do it again officially now. Thank you so much. It's been a distinct honor and pleasure to work with you on this board. Your perspective of governance, your perspective of organizational direction, I've greatly appreciated that. Those different points of view that we all bring to this table and to this organization, I certainly appreciated yours, especially from the administrative, educational, organizational 100,000 foot viewpoint. It was really good. And I will miss all your corny jokes, and I don't know how we're going to replace that aspect of levity here, but thank you so much for all your work. We all greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Director White, are you ready?
Yes, and thank you. I also just want to echo a lot of the thoughts that have already been shared. But Randy, it has been an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure to work with you. You were instrumental in the community foundation as well as getting the Lucas devices. And, you know, I know that your whole heart and soul have been into being a member of this district and serving in the role of director. I also had the distinct privilege to work for the district as an employee with you on the board, and it has been an absolute honor to work with you as a fellow board member. And I just want to wish you nothing but continued success in everything you do, and keep those Facebook posts coming because I enjoy them quite a bit. So just wish you good luck.
Well, something occurs to me. Was it not you that was assigned when I was first on the board to, and I think Brian was the second person to take me through the burning building?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that you know, we got to gear you up and put you through the paces, and you know, you stepped right up. And I really do appreciate someone, an elected like you, in a position like that takes the time to get a true feel for the occupation and what the employees of the district experience and go through. So yes, I remember that very well, and I was proud of you then. I'm proud of you now.
Well, and I'll just extend that to say, we're in this burning building, or we're going into this burning building, and Walt, who turns to me and says, "Director, what would you like to do?" I said, "Exactly what you damn tell me to do. What are you talking about?" Yeah, that was a phenomenal experience, and forever set in my mind the nature of the work that our men and women do. So thank you for that.
Thank you for your service. I really do appreciate it, and I just wish you well.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, go ahead, Director Wood.
No, I just want to say, Randy, it's almost 10 years ago now, I first met you, and my introduction to you and this board was my first meeting was the banter that you and Jack had. And it was quite entertaining, made every meeting, no matter what was going on, put a little levity to it and help keep us some of the sanity through some of the good times and tough times as well. But more importantly and more substantively, the being able to learn from you and watch, get what I can in terms of your acumen and your acuity for the financial and for the way we work up here and what we need to do. And I really appreciate the time you spent with me over the years, talking not only about the district business, but other subjects as well. And I will very much miss having your wing to hide behind, I guess, in some of the bigger things that we go through. So I appreciate everything you've done.
Thank you, Ted. I truly appreciate that. And I've gained a great deal from you as well. And in this process, in mentioning Jack Scheidegger is the bane of my existence. I met him on this board, and I intend to file a lawsuit against Metro Fire as a result.
I'll make.
Go.
But Randy, I basically said what I thought. I commented last week. When I know it was your last time on the finance committee, and I can't add any more to what has been said. Just want to thank you tremendously for your service.
Thank you.
Yeah, and wish you the best of luck. May you do all the trips you want from here on out.
May I not get killed in Africa.
I didn't want to go there. Just don't get in front of any elephants or anything like that. I just want to thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to wish you the best of luck. It's
Thank
been
you
a
so
pleasure
much.
serving with you, and you always have been a great advocate for men and women of the department, and helping me when I was brand new. So really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Best wishes.
Randy, I want to thank you for your mentoring that you gave me and your help in many of the special meetings that we've had and our phone calls. You have been a call, as someone else has said, a calm in the storm to lead me quietly to the light. And I would just want to say, keep your Facebook stuff coming, because I want to see pictures from Africa.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I need to join Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm missing out.
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
All
Thank you all. I truly appreciate it.
We will miss you. The next item on our agenda, reports. President's report.
President Sailors, if we could.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think we need a recommendation to adopt the
Oh, yes,
resolution.
yes.
Acknowledging Randy, and then we're gonna have a little round of something here. So, Madam Chair, I move recommendation.
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
We have a motion and a second. Call the roll.
Director Rosali, how do you favor on this one?
Aye.
Wood.
Here or here.
Wood.
Aye, here. Yeah, sorry.
Sheets.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
And Sailors.
Aye.
Motion passes.
With that, Madam Chair, I'd like to applaud my fellow director, Randy Rosali, for all his
Thank you for that suggestion, Director Jones. Yeah, moving on to reports. President has no report tonight. Fire Chief's report.
Good evening, directors. My first item is one of the, I think is one of the neatest items that we have. We have 16 members that have completed and passed the engineer's promotional process. So congratulations to them. On Tuesday, 8 of those members were promoted. If you look at what we do every single day and the responsibility of the engineer's position for maintenance and care, driving, pumping, aerial operations, it is such a key position within the organization. Earlier today, myself and Chief Bailey were at the county and saw one of the new members that was there, and he is just as happy as could be in his new role. So congratulations to all 16 of them, and especially the 11 that were promoted on Tuesday. Welcome to Kevin Johnston, has been reinstated back as the position of firefighter effective October 17th. A couple of new hires, we have Jeremy Lim and Mason Wheeler were hired in the position of Fire Inspector 1 in the Community Risk Reduction on November 1st. Rachel Roberson hired as an office tech effective November 1st in the IT, and Chelsea Justrick hired as an office tech in the operations division on the 2nd. So a few new hires that are coming into the organization. We had an opportunity this week to meet with them a little bit, and it was nice to welcome them here. We have a reassignment opportunity of a training day captain that will close on November 23rd. And the cadre for the 23-1 Academy was selected. A number of folks interviewed for that, and they are selected and start the Academy in February, late January, early February. Some meetings. We finished up the Chiefs forums on October 31st. We welcomed the new SRP Academy 22-3 conference call with the Metro Chiefs. We also had labor management yesterday across the hall, a very productive day over there. And then today we were invited by the sheriff's office to go down to the county and take part in their recognition event. And they recognized, much as we did the other day, Captain Lamone and Firefighter Hodge for the event earlier in the year with the rescue. It was very nice to be part of it, and it was probably 90% of the awards the fire department and in some way was working closely, or the district was working closely with the sheriff's office. That ends my report unless you have any questions.
Yes, Chief, I have a question. With the 16 people passing the engineer's test and 8 of them being promoted, do we now have a list?
We do.
Of 8 actors?
We do.
Thank you.
11 were promoted, so 16. So we have 5 on the list.
Okay. 11. 8. Okay, perfect. Thank you. No other comments or questions? Moving on to operations report, Deputy Chief Mitchell. Welcome to the podium.
Thank you, President Sailors. Good evening, directors and all. Start off this evening on the operations report with some statistics. We've run 4,080 total incidents since our last report on October 27th, about 291 calls a day. So we're still right there at that 300 line, continuing on as it has been. We've had 154 fire incidents, and that's an average of 11 calls per day for fires, which is up just a little bit from our last report. As the same day there that their engineers were promoted, I'm happy to report that the region transitioned out of peak wildland season staffing at 8 a.m. on November 8th. All of our partners here in the region, as well as ourselves, moved into more of the winter winter dispatch levels, as well as the helicopter program and dozer program moved into their winter staffing levels on a call when needed basis. So it's a good news. We got some rain, and it's gotten the fuels to where our wildland season transition has been done again this year. So good news there. A couple items on training. First off, next week, we're doing the Captain's Officers Development Program, or ODP. It's 3 days next week. We have about 30 participants signed up. This is the first time we've done this process. It's about 6 months before the scheduled captain's examination is going to occur. It's a little bit different than what we've done before, as far as we would always do a captain's academy prior to the exam, but it was really close to when the exam's happening. The intent with what we're trying this time is to do some training well in advance to allow those members to understand some foundational pieces of what it means to be a company officer in the organization, and give them that time, a number of months, to work towards increasing their skill level to hopefully make them more successful in that role. So that's going to be next week on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday over at Station 106. We'll start that off and see how that goes, and looking forward to those members moving into that promotional exam process next spring. The second item on training is we just started our annual professional development program up again. It happened over the last 2 days, actually right across the hallway here. It was put on, it's called Your Career and Retirement, and Captain Dustin Rodriguez, Coach Gallagher, and CalPERS were all represented there, and they kicked the program off. We move into next month, which is going to be the command philosophy and overview, which I'll lead that discussion with the membership. And then from there forward, we'll have a panel of the presenters that we're going to do for the rest of the year, and we'll have a good dialogue there. And then monthly after that, we'll continue to offer that program. So it's good to see that continuing to flourish and provide our members with some good opportunities for development. The last item tonight, I'll give you an update on our ambulance surge contract. You'll remember back in the early stage of summer, we brought it to you for an adoption. I'm happy to report that, excuse me, we've now gone into an operational status with that. It took a little bit of time to get the contracts completed and get it all set up. Again, the objective of that is to make sure our service delivery continues while we're balancing the call volume and potential wall time impacts, as well as time on task and things like that, to have that surge in our system when we get to a drawdown to add those units in. And then also reduce the engine companies going out of service to staff our in-service reserve medic program that's been around for a long time. Every time we activate one of those and it responds, we have a first responder that comes out of the system. So our intent is to build that capacity to have that be less impactful to the system in general. So currently, AMR is still there as the first to be contacted as part of the contract that's been in place for a number of years for 2 units for a minimum of 2 hours. The 2 additions that we have had is NorCal Ambulance. They were first established the contract under the new process, and they again went operational on the 7th. So this week they're finally in the system and available for a fish under the contract being activated. And then the second company we're working with right now over the next couple of weeks is Alpha One, and there's a meeting coming up with their relationship for some of the training and also the onboarding of the operational plan, so they understand how the functionality in the system works. We're still maintaining our drawdown process and our agreed upon regional management of when we get to that low ambulance level. That's still in place on a regional level. This is specific to what Metro Fire is doing to help facilitate that surge capacity in the system. And then we also are going to test out activating the surge contract prior to the ISRMs. Is that one of our goals, so that we can maintain that service from those first responders staying available. So that's the end of my report tonight, unless there's any questions.
Any questions or comments? Thank you very much for that report. Next item is Firefighters Local 522. BC Macro, welcome to the podium.
Thank you. Good evening, directors. We too would like to congratulate the 16 successful candidates in the engineers test. It is exciting to have a list of 5 now. I think that's probably the first in 10 to 12 years. It's been a minute since we've had an opportunity for folks to work out of class in that capacity and have that rank completely full. So that's a good thing going into the holiday season, and that's going to help our staffing challenges as we continue to see significant improvement in that regard. So congrats to everybody. We've been pretty busy since we spoke last. I personally was able to slide into our 3-day behavioral health class that the district supports. We had a lot of 522 members there, both Metro folks, but also from all the units and folks outside of 522 from in the area. And it was really good to see the class put together and how Captain Manfredi, Jeff Wells, Rich Alamo from the city all work together to ensure that we're supporting our folks. I sat in there with also Battalion Chief Mike Johnson from Metro, and we're hoping that that becomes something that as we look at future promotional opportunities, we ask members to sit in there and just have awareness of what that entails and what our peer support folks are doing to go out and support our members. So that was a great class. I was excited to sit in that. As the chief had said, we had labor management. At labor management, we were really productive, focusing on all of the hard work that we've put into a number of things, but mostly into this contract to structure the MOU documents so that we can bring them in front of this board for final resolution on December 8th. We talked about recruiting with the new package and rebuilding Metro EMS and what we're going to do to work together to take that out into the community so that hopefully someday Alpha One and AMR and all of them are looking at us to help them with coverage, because this is the place that everybody wants to come and be part of this organization. And so putting all those pieces in place, I'm very appreciative of all the work that Chief Bailey and his team, along with Dave O'Toole and the finance folks, are helping to get those documents put together to get in front of you. So it's been busy, and I'm happy to report that we are being very productive on all fronts. I'd like to conclude by taking this opportunity to talk to Director Orzali, Randy. On behalf of the men and women of Metro Fire and the community, I'd like to thank you for your service. Your work with the foundation has greatly impacted our communities and our ability to support the community. I personally didn't get much opportunity early part of my career to get to know you to the extent I do now, but being in this spot for the last year, I really value the time that we've spent together. You are an amazing person, and I thank you for your patience with me, sometimes dealing with the storm of my emotion and being the calm in that as I've kind of navigated some of the waters of the responsibility of this position. And I wish you well in all your future endeavors. I value the coffee dates and the history lessons that come with those. And I look forward to buying you a cup of coffee and hearing about the history of some of the spots in Africa you visit and the specifics of your trip. So thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you. Next up, committee and delegate reports. First up, the executive committee. The executive committee, we met on November 4th to discuss the fire chief selection process. The full board is now looking forward to oral interviews this weekend. That ends my report. Communication Center JPA, Deputy Chief Wagaman, welcome to the podium.
Thank you and good evening, President Sailors, directors, and Chief Harms. The dispatch board last met on November 4th. It was in the form of a special board meeting due to some time constraints to utilize some grant funding, which brings me to 3 action items, all of which were unanimously approved. The first item was a radio replacement project that was approved, and we're going to be utilizing SHISHCAP 20 funding for that. They will fund the entire project, which is a great thing for us. The second item was amendment to our budget to reflect this grant funding. And the last item was a dispatch console cleaning. That's for each individual workspace at the comm center. As you could imagine, it's a 24/7 operation. Running a vacuum, behind somebody dispatching a call doesn't quite work out well. So we do have a professional company that comes in, and it's a very low volume type of cleaning process, incredibly thorough, that happens once per year. That concludes my report. The dispatch board will be meeting next on November 22nd here at Metro Fire Board Chambers at 9 o'clock in the morning.
I do have a question. Which radios are being replaced out?
There are several radios that are being replaced. Some of the 800 megahertz portable radios, as well as the VHF, the actual mobile radios. So our main dispatch radio systems that are actually installed into the communications room, as well as the coax and the antenna that go all the way up to the 100+ foot mast.
Okay, thank you very much for that report. Any questions? Go ahead.
I just want to take the opportunity to thank you for arranging a site visit for me. I look forward to it on the 28th and seeing the comm center and having a face-to-face with some of the dispatchers. So
my pleasure. Yep, and I'm sure they will be pleasured with you and your guest as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that report. Next up, Finance and Audit Committee. Director Rosales.
The Finance and Audit Committee has not met, and there's presently no date for the next meeting.
Thank you. The Policy Committee was supposed to meet tonight, but the meeting was...
I was just going to add the policy committee was canceled this evening, and we will schedule a meeting on another date.
To be determined.
To be determined.
To be determined. Thank you very much. We now move on to board member questions and comments. We will start with Director Jones.
Thank you, Madam President. Congratulations to the new hires, the new engineers. Best of luck. I know everyone's going to do well. One comment I do have is with, is it Director or Dr. Barger or Barger?
Barger.
Barger, yeah.
Sachi Barger. Thank you, Doctor, for your presentation. It's interesting now, things that many of us know and or knew intuitively about sleep deprivation and the impact it has on us. I appreciate the science, the research, the data that has gone into what's the word, to supporting all these intuitive, very real life feelings that many of us have had on this job. And for the work at Metro during the mid-2000s, Director Tom Lawson and I worked on one of the exact things that she mentioned in terms of redoing the alerting system. And that included the separate dorms, separate alerting systems for the different crews. That was doable because we were building some new stations. We still have a long way to go with our existing facilities, and I hope that we can do our best to try to minimize this. Call volume's not going down, so we're not gonna double the amount of stations. So we need to look at exactly some of the items that she pointed out. And I would like to just say thank you, because that science and those studies that she presented really did confirm so much of the work that we did at Metro in the mid-2000s to start to implement, to help diminish the impact of sleep deprivation on all of us. So thank you, Doctor, appreciate that.
Thank you, Director Jones. Director Rice, comments?
Thank you, Madam President. And just, I'm going to keep them short, and congratulations to all promotions and Randy, but I have to say it kind of knocked my socks off when you informed the board that Kevin Trost passed away. I didn't know that. Kevin and I shared a first in area. He was Sacramento Engine 7. I was American River Engine 53. He loved training. He loved the fire service. He was arrogant. He was brash. He could be tough to be around, but I sure loved being around him. And he was a consummate trainer, a consummate professional, and that was just really Cindy's sad news. But thank you for the awareness on that. And that's all I have. I just wanted to recognize publicly a friend, Kevin Trost, Captain Sacramento Fire.
Thank you, Director Rice. And I would like to have a moment of silence at the end of meeting tonight for Kevin. Jennifer Sheets, comments.
I just wanted to congratulate the engineers. I just also want to acknowledge the men and women who are going to be working on Thanksgiving. And I know that they're sacrificing that day. So I just want to recognize that. And I hope everybody who is going to be able to be with their family has a really nice Thanksgiving. And if the members' families, I'm not sure if we're allowed to go back to the stations and that sort of stuff, but absolutely encourage that. It was always really a lot of fun to do that. So just want to acknowledge the crews that will be sacrificing that night.
Thank you, Director Sheets. Director Wood.
I can't say anything more eloquently than already has been, so thank you.
Thank you, Director Wood. Director Orzali.
I've said plenty for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Director White.
No comment. I think it's all been said. And just once again, wish Randy good luck. Take care.
Director White. Director Clark.
No comment.
No comment tonight. Having said many things tonight, I have no further comments. I would like to have a moment of silence if we can stand for Kevin Trost. Thank you very much. We shall now go into closed session.